Welcome to the Nexus Unloaded podcast. This is Will Crozier.
And I'm Zac Congonis. We are here to bring you the best solutions to your lifting problems. Through our real-world experience, we hope to break things down in a digestible, applicable, and entertaining way.
All right, today we are talking about how many days a week should I be training? How many days a week should we be training? It's a very common question that we get as coaches. A lot of people want to just do the most amount they can fit all the time and think that just more training days or more work that they're doing just automatically equals more gains, more progression. But it doesn't necessarily work like that. There's a little bit of nuance to it. So in this episode, we're breaking that down and talking about, what is the best split, or how should we set up the best split? How many days should we train? How much work should we do on those days? How should we kind of, from scratch, think about designing that split and answer all those questions, give our perspective on that. Enjoy. Good noon. Good noon to everybody listening.
Mr. Cobbler,
it just doesn't sound the same as coming from me when you don't explain it.
So I used to have a teacher in high school. His name was Mr. Cobbler, sickest lad to ever exist. He'd walk into the classroom every morning, like regardless of time of day, he'd say good noon. Like if it's 6 a.m., I mean, we weren't at school at 6 a.m., but I'm sure Mr. Cobbler was saying good noon to his wife and or husband, whatever you want.
Did anybody ever go like, hey, just so you know, it's not noon? Like,
oh, every day. Every day was Mr. Cobbler, it's not noon, so he's like, I don't care, it's noon somewhere.
Fair enough, I like it.
That's the attitude.
Doing it to piss you off, just teacher trolling the students. I love that. Respect
That's
that.
the attitude we need to enter our podcasts with. It's fucking noon somewhere, deal with it.
Yeah, if it's noon where you are, welcome. To everybody else where it's not noon, welcome as well. We're jumping in. I just started my my diet plan for the first time. I'm on a nutrition plan for the first time in a long time.
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah. Obviously between the gym, just Nexus's growth in general, COVID, the diabetes stuff, between all those things mixed together, it's created a whirlwind of just absolute trash training and lack of progression in general for me. I've had many attempts to try and get some consistency again, but it's only really the last month I've been hitting every training session again and really getting things done. Before that, shout out to my coach Matt, because he put up with me just having just random crap all over the place. Like he'd be like, oh, what did you do this week? I'd be like, oh, I did 2 sessions and I kind of went in and did this on another day, and everything was all over the place. So he dealt with that for like a year. So shout out to him for that. That's what a coach is for. But
deal with our shit.
Consistent. To deal with that. And then for the last month, I've been back training 5 days a week, smashing it. Obviously got some little niggles and stuff that I need to fix up. I've committed to ProRaw in the new year, so I've got 6 months or something for that. And then the second step, I feel like I need to do things one at a time. I can't just go all right, from today on, I'm going to get my sleeps perfect, all my supplementation perfect, my training perfect, my nutrition perfect, and just do everything boom.
It's all or nothing.
Never works. You just get overwhelmed. So I kind of made sure that I was consistent in the training, getting all the days in, regardless of whether they were amazing sessions or not, just getting that. And then this is the next step to get the nutrition consistent from here on out. And then I'll look at other factors. I'll look at maybe what can I do to make my sleep better? What can I do to make my cardio better? How can I use subs to improve those things? Can I get everything consistent and all working together perfectly? So I'm starting with a bit of a diet because I'm a little bit overweight.
How much do you weigh now?
The other day I actually weighed in and I was 118.
Fat.
So
fucking hell. She's a thick boy.
Yeah, so
that's solid.
In the past I've always struggled to gain weight. It was well known, if for anybody that knew me or followed me, that I had to eat 6,000-7,000 calories a day just to kind of get even close to 120.
Yeah, when you were going to 120s, you were face fucking all kinds of food.
Just constantly jamming food down my face. And
his head looked like a watermelon.
Yeah, just going full.
You did get very round.
And, yeah, I love that. That's the round is strong.
We'll have to put an image of that. The biggest photo that we have of you look like Buffalo Bill.
Hey,
Buffalo Bill or
Buffalo
Buffalo
be strong,
Bill?
right? Why does it pick on me? And then I kind of I would always really struggle. And then if I didn't eat really well for like a day, I'll lose like 3 kilos overnight and start, do not pass go, start again. But yeah, I don't know if it's to do with the insulin and getting on top of that, and whether it was maybe affecting me in a different way before or whatever. I don't know. I don't know what the thing is now, but even through just casually eating whatever I felt like when I felt like it, and just kind of making sure protein was up over the last few months, I've managed to just elevate the body weight kind of without even trying. So that's a really good sign that if I ever want to push up, I don't think I do, because I feel pretty terrible everywhere else. Like going for a walk is a struggle, and sleeping is not as good as it could be. So, to get back to where I was, I need to start this with a diet. So starting a pretty baseline finding diet now for the next 2-3 weeks, and then we'll go into a semi-aggressive kind of cut. I like to cut really fast because it makes me feel like I'm doing something. If I try to cut slow, I just get bored and go, oh, well, like this is kind of working, but like, I don't know, just don't feel like I'm putting hard. I'd rather just go all out and just cut as hard as I possibly can, be hungry all the time, but see the results. That just works better for me mentally.
That sounds awful. That sounds so awful.
Yeah, but it's awful for a short time, so you can justify it because you're going to get back to eating and feeling good later.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I guess that's that argument.
You have to be quite planned with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to be quite planned with it because obviously that aggressive dieting is going to kind of screw with your training for a little bit, so you have to have a fair bit of time up your sleeve and be willing to put things in place for that time and understand things are going to be backwards or whatever. But, if I was coming into a comp, I couldn't just, fuck it, let's aggressively cut. You'd have to play the smarter, slow game. But now that since I've got 6 months, fuck it, let's diet, let's get close to 110 so that in comp prep I don't really have to worry about it too much. I'm not cutting weight on the day. It's only 2 hour weigh-in. So, yeah, that's where I'm at, just getting things under control.
Think of it like this, Zac. The less time spent dieting, the more time spent gaining.
Damn right. And we talk about it a bit, but kind of powerlifting is really, bodybuilding in disguise with a bit of SBD skill on top. Usually the most
with
jacked
less
people
bronzer.
win. Yeah, much less, much less tan.
I don't know. I reckon we're in a world now where a lot of people will get all gussied up for their powerlifting comps.
Yeah,
people get their fresh coat of fake tan, get the dreadlocks, not dreadlocks. What are they called? The cornrows put in. Not dreadlocks.
Yeah. Yeah, but you're still in a soft suit, so you're never going to look great. I don't know why you bother.
I feel like someone needs to make a flattering soft suit. The first person to make a flattering soft suit is going to make a lot of money. Well, you could have like a little patch for inserts to make the little fella look not so small. You can accentuate different curvatures. People would love it, I reckon.
Maybe it's like, how people have like the Crocs and they put like the little fucking badges on them.
The Croc plugs.
It's just for like their hobbies or whatever. I don't know. Like it's like your scout badges and they put on their shoes. Like that maybe. Like on your soft suit you wear your patches or whatever. I don't know. But
that'd be pretty cool. Now comps are going to start handing out like scout patches when you win a comp. You can sew it onto your side. That's actually not a terrible idea. That's not an awful idea, to be honest.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Remember, we have to still stay within the rules, though, because like the whole point of a soft suit is that I can see your ass come off the bench and that I can see depth quite well, and it's an even playing field and stuff like that.
Yeah, but no one's putting a ProRaw 15 patch on their asshole.
You could put it on the crease of your hip so that it slightly throws off the judges as to where your hip crease is, or. Put it on your knee so it highlights where the top of your knee is or something like that. I don't know. I can just see, like, the more shit you complicate, and this is why, like, the rules are fucking basic, because the more shit you complicate, people, like, will take advantage. People are always obviously pushing the rules and as they should, push them to the fucking limit, Do your hook grip where you're only holding on with the absolute tip of your fingernails and it's almost about to fall off your hand so you can lock out at your knees. Do that, please. whatever, I'm all for bending the rules maximally. That's essentially what powerlifting is at the end of that anyway. We're all just cheating as much as we can to lift the most weight.
Quote of the year by Will: powerlifting is just cheating as much as possible.
It is. We're, we all use the bendiest bars. Obviously there are the natty feds which stick to their fucking stiff bars.
The natty feds stick to their flat bars.
I don't know what else. Tested feds. So I should say tested.
The way that I hear it, one fed is to total less, one fed's to total more. Maybe not natty and enhanced. Just go worse and better.
Oh, jeez. Yeah,
that's rough.
No, we're headed down a rocky rabbit hole here. This is cancellation. But when this is something for Broderick to come in and just get Broderick to say all the bad things and leave us.
If he does that, I won't have a job. If he just says all the bad things, why am I here? That's my shtick. Oh, shit.
It's just good. It's good. What about you? What are you up to?
Not a whole lot. We're looking to max out the ollie lifts in 8 weeks, which will be exciting. My shoulder finally isn't a pile of hot garbage, so hopefully looking to maybe snatch 110, clean and jerk 150, 160. Be pretty spick and span. Then possibly look to prep for a meet in the near future for powerlifting. Now that I can bench again.
Is this the Super Total SBD as well, though?
No, the Super Total meet does not look like it'll occur. The place in which it was meant to happen will not hold it at this point in time. And I do not have
people. Only you and Brandon signed up.
Pretty much. So that meet won't happen, so we've decided to split it up. I'll probably look to do a powerlifting comp around the time of ProRaw.
Okay. Challenge me head to head.
I couldn't get to 110. I'd be too little. I'd be much too little.
I'll let you be 125. It's all right.
Yeah, this is the easiest way. So that'll be nice and fun.
This Shetland pony theory that you have going on. I see some note that you've left me that I have absolutely no idea what the fuck that means.
So I wasn't sure if I was going to bring it up on this podcast because it's a pretty in-depth explanation. But the Shetland pony theory, I was talking to my barber about this, and he brought this up. My barber also has a podcast. I'm going to have to send him this so he knows his theory's made it to the big leagues. And his theory is people have a really bad habit of making things so small and cute that they're useless. So he was talking about the Shetland pony. And everyone's like, we're going to make this really small horse that can kind of live in your house, but also live in a paddock. It's too small to ride. It can carry small loads, but not big loads. Why does the Shetland pony exist?
I thought you were going to go and say that he was just shitting on, like, we're going to go offend the other half of the listeners and say that people that have little cute dogs are also useless. But you'd be throwing yourself in the deep end there.
That's a big call. Well, that's the thing. I was thinking. I thought about this man's theory for hours. Like I've said, like Shetland ponies have to have a purpose. They're not just miniature for no reason. And apparently they were made. I did. I spent a lot of time on Google. They were made to be able to carry moderate loads through very tight spaces or small tracks with very dense terrain. So they're better than horses in certain situations. So it was just me disproving my barber's theory from 3 months ago.
As we've said in previous episodes, there are pros and cons to everything, all right?
Exactly.
You use RPE percentages or fucking use high bar, low bar, pros and cons to everything. Nothing is completely trash, including Shetland ponies. So they run into our theory as well.
Have you ever looked up a Shetland pony?
I know what they look like. Yeah, of course.
They're fucking adorable.
Yeah.
They're like the they're like the under 75 kilo men's lifters.
I thought we'd gotten past just pissing people off, and you just brought us straight back. Oh, yeah. Right. Well, let's get into. I just wanted to also bring up what's on. We have the mentorship, which we've mentioned a few times, getting real close to kicking off the final installation of that for this year. Only just north of a week until we launch that, and when we do launch that, it'll run for 12 weeks and finish up a smidge before Christmas, and it'll. So if you got any thoughts on that, you want to jump in last minute, you have very little time to jump on, but book a call with me. We'll put the link in the show notes, and you can jump on, book an no obligations caught with me and talk through whether it's the right choice for you. But if you're a powerlifting coach who wants to get better at powerlifting, geez, can't speak. If you want to get better at powerlifting, yeah, probably probably will benefit you. So if you fit that description, which is very broad, reach out to me and we'll make it happen.
Hashtag buy our stuff.
So no shirt mentions this time. No more shirt designs.
I gave up on that. That's fine.
Today's main question, problem, solution that we're going into is a question around training splits or training frequency, and the question reads, how many days a week should I be training? Which, again, quite a broad question, but a very common question I get. I don't know if it's a common question you get. I get it all the time. People go, I'll program a person 4 days, and then if they've come from like a bodybuilding background or something, they'll be like, oh,
why not 6?
Only 4 days. What is this? Why not 5, 6, 7 days? Why I will get more gains with that. And it's always an interesting conversation, because it isn't just a case of, if you do more training days, you will get more gains. It is not near as simple as that. And it is quite different in some regards to hypertrophy training. So, that's what we're going into this week, is just the question of how many days a week should I be training.
It's a good one as well, because, you just mentioned before that you're starting back with 5 days when you're getting back into things more consistently.
Yeah. Right now I'm on 5. I've typically been a person that trained 4 days a week in just a real classic kind of upper lower powerlifting split, squat, bench, deadlift, bench type thing. Over times we've experimented with doing more benching, which has been quite successful. I've experimented with doing more squats a week, which has also been quite successful. I don't know what's going to be the most ideal approach coming back to it right now. So we'll have to see what happens. But doing 5 at the moment so that I can split up my leg days a bit more. At the moment, it's kind of an upper body split as far as like the accessories and hypertrophy movements go, and then I chuck in squats and deads just on top of upper body days alone. So I'll go squats, and then some back movements, and then on the day I do deadlifts, I literally just do deadlifts and then arms. So quite a weird split.
Sounds like a good day.
Yeah, it is.
It sounds like the best day.
But I only do, so on those days I'm only doing squats and deadlifts as my lower body movements, and then I do a completely separate lower body hypertrophy day on the 5th day, which is like pendulum squats, split squats, leg extensions, RDLs, leg curls, and I think like calves or abs or something at the end. So I get most of my leg volume in on that day, and then the other 2 days are really just like skill days. I'm just looking at getting better at squatting, more consistent squatting, kind of keep it at 6-7 RPE for until we reestablish this base. And then actually I think from next week we bring in a second squat frequency into another day, and start to really double down on the skill aspect, because we've got consistent training again. It's time to I can actually handle that again, before I would just kind of die if I tried to do that. So it's going to be really interesting keeping on running this forward. What are you doing for your split?
I always end up around 4. The 5 days always sounds super appealing, but I generally find as soon as I push to 5, I can do it for a block or 2, but then I just die. Just the consistency isn't there for me to be in the gym that many days a week, because I'll usually find myself I'm a bit of a chatty Cathy. And if I spend 5 days in the week, the benefit of saying, cool, you got 5 days, you spread your volume out, the sessions are shorter, I still spend the exact same amount of time in the gym. Which was the biggest positive to the 5 days. But now instead of spending 5 sessions at an hour and a half, it's 5 sessions at 3 hours with an hour and a half's worth of working out. So the 4 days usually runs better for me. Even with the Ollie, I find that 4 days split between Ollie and powerlifting, it does the trick. I've been training for quite a while now, and 4 days always seems to do the job.
Yeah, for you it sounds like it's more just time in the gym and lifestyle that makes the decision of the less days. I mean, theoretically, by the book, you could say, more days is more opportunity to, like I said, like squat a couple of times, spread that volume out, maybe improve the recovery curve so you can get better work in it and all that. And that's great in theory and a really good thinking if you are thinking like that. But a lot of the time, the amount of days that you're training really does just come back to your life. Like, what can I do consistently? I've had people come to me, those same people that want to train 6 days, 7 days a week, and go, oh, you know, I think we should do heats more because they're in their mind, more days, more gains. But then I'm like, okay, we'll try it out. And then so we'll run like a 6-day program or something. Again, similar to you, they last like a couple of weeks, and then all of a sudden I notice, they've missed a session here. That's okay. That's fine. Shit happens. Let's keep moving. Next week they've missed another day, or maybe, you know, they missed 2 days or stuff, and then it's just like where it's just not consistent whatsoever. And then my thought line with that is always, let's just program the amount of days that you can 110% definitely get in every single week, so that we know exactly what's happening and we can balance fatigue and do all those things that we've talked about. Make sure we know the exact amount of stimulus we're getting in, so we can actually take metrics and make decisions based off that, rather than 4 days on this week and then 5 days on that week, and sometimes we get like an extra arm pump on a different day or whatever. And like it sounds good to be able to try and maximize what you're doing, but it's the measurable aspect of it. It's like we don't really know what's working because it's different every week, and that's the problem here.
And generally, when people are trying to do too much and adding those extra days and not being able to facilitate it in their schedule, there's nothing more heartbreaking than looking back through a couple of weeks of training and having all those missed sessions. You kind of feel like you're jibbing yourself, or you've just underworked, even if you're doing plenty of volume to keep getting better. If you're not being honest with how much time you can actually spend in the gym, it starts to wear on you a little bit. As you said, making sure you're doing exactly what you can do. And if you have time, go train a bit of extra arms. Then it means that you can let your coach know what you've done, everything's tracked, and if you do an extra 10 sets of curls, who cares? Go and get a pump on.
Yeah, but just make sure you let us know.
Unless you max out a deadlift, then keep that to yourself.
The other thing with this that people get caught up on, I think, is just like the split itself. They go like, like a push-pull leg split is better than an upper-lower split, or a full-body split is better than that split, or this split's better, And the thing is, like, I know we don't program like that, and we definitely in the mentorship don't teach people that style. Like, I don't go like, a new person has signed up. Yeah, I think we'll just do upper lower with this person, and like strictly follow that kind of structure, because it just doesn't work for everyone. Like the order in my mind is thinking about, first of all, how many days a week can they train consistently, get that nailed down. And then I'm looking at just variables they need based off their training history and what they've told me, and maybe taking their injuries into consideration and looking at their patterns and just, all the data that I have about this person. I'm going to make an estimation as to what makes their squat move forward. I'm going to make an estimation as to what makes their bench move forward and their deadlift. And then I kind of have a rough idea of what that looks like. They've given me feedback on what they feel better based on the previous training. And then I'm going to start to lay out my week based on that. I'm going to start to, okay, cool, this person responds better at 2 squat sessions, so I'm going to put them in a way that the curves don't affect each other, the recovery curves. We're going to chuck in some deadlifts in this particular layout and some bench in this particular layout, and I kind of start like that. Start with the things that matter most, which is SBD for a powerlifter that's in prep. Start to put them throughout the week and kind of structure them in a way that makes sense, that they're not going to affect each other. And then after that, we'll start to look at it further from there. But I'm not going, if you just have come in to saying, yeah, this is upper day, this is lower day, this is upper day, this is lower day, then you really limit yourself to the possibilities. If we look at it from even like a body part growth perspective, like say you really wanted to like grow your arms, right? You just want fucking huge biceps. That is your one goal in life. But you come in going like, you know what? Upper lower split is the split that I have read, that my idol or that my favorite YouTuber or Instagrammer is doing, and that's what they said is best. So I'm just going to do that. Problem with that is now you have 2 upper days. You can limit. I mean, you can put your arm volume as much as you want on those days, to the point it just gets ridiculous, of course. But because you've got this strict like structure, like how dare you can't put arm training onto onto the lower body days or whatever. Like if you don't have that option there, then it limits you to how much volume you can kind of just slam into a program. Whereas if you don't have that strict mindset about it, you can go like, oh, hey, this is like, I have squats on this day, but it doesn't mean that it has to all be legs. Like I can do fucking biceps on squat day. Why not? It should be the goal orientated and recovery orientated and that sort of stuff. That's how we should be thinking about where we put things and how much frequency things are going to get and the kind of the training split, not decide the training split and then assign exercises via that training split, if that makes sense.
Yeah, there's no benefit to being so subscribed to a certain split that you limit your options. There's never a benefit in limiting your options. Because as soon as you're saying, okay, we're going to do this split regardless of the person, it's like you're a toddler trying to fit, those little big box things with your circle holes and your little pegs. You got your triangle peg trying to jam it into a circle hole. Just the person might not need that sort of a layout. You may need to pivot. You can start there for sure. I don't know if we've talked about initial program design. I don't think we have. But when you get someone, first off, you got to make some choices based off some assumptions and the best knowledge you have available. Once you start there, you don't want to stay so stuck there that you can't eventuate or evolve that as the person progresses and stuff like that.
Yeah, you might go, you're starting with this and that, has this kind of layout. I'm hitting the lifts this many times per week with this much volume and stuff like that. And then you might find, oh, wow, this person's squat isn't progressing in the way that I wanted, but they seem to be recovering fine. So, like, maybe squatting a little bit more isn't a bad idea. But then you look on the days that you're currently squatting, maybe you're just squatting once a week at that point, and you go like, well, they're already doing 5 sets on that day, like 6 sets isn't impossible, but maybe if we just kind of, rather than just keep piling on sets onto that day, maybe if we split it up over a couple of different sessions, it makes a lot more sense because, I can get 3-4 sets done twice a week with a lot better, not being as fatigued from the previous sets. Then I can just trying to jam in 8 sets of squats. This reality is the 6th, 7th, and 8th set are probably pretty average. You're pretty tired.
You're going to start getting rough.
Yeah. We never want the bar to slow down on those because you're tired. Like I never want to. My goal is I don't want to program so many sets that on SBD that the bar is really significantly slowing down or form is kind of becoming a little bit breaking down just from them being tired. If it slows down because I programmed something heavy, cool.
That's the whole sport.
Heavy
that's
things
it.
go slow. Yeah, that's fine.
Heavy things.
They will still be. They'll still be producing a lot of force and putting a lot of force into the ground, but because it's heavy, it's going to move a little bit slower. But if it's slowing down because they're tired and they can't put as much force into the ground, I would rather split it up over multiple days so that force can be higher, so they can hit each set fresher and get more out of each set.
And that other point of goals as well ties in because you have the individual factors of the person, like we said, the amount of time they have to train, what type of person they are, which can go into deciding some of these things. But yeah, the goal of that person in the sport is another massive driving factor to what sort of workload you'll give them and how you arrange that workload. Like a good thing that's kind of to point out, we've said yes, more isn't always better, but sometimes more is necessary. Like if you have someone who really wants to be a world-class powerlifter and they've never trained before, they're probably not going to be a world-class powerlifter on 3 to 2 days a week. There's a certain amount of work that someone's going to have to do to reach a very high pinnacle of a goal, but making sure you're matching that workload to the goals is important. If you have a stay-at-home mum who really just wants to get a little bit stronger, they can train 2 days a week if they've never trained before. It's a great starting point. Eventually, you'll have to add a bit more, but... You have to match the goal to the person and the program and the days and all that good shit.
Yeah, and there's always different ways you can split it up. I programmed pretty elite lifters on 5 days. Some have actually put through 6-day plans. It usually doesn't last a whole prep, but definitely made some progress on 6-day plans. I programmed elite lifters right into comp on 5 days, 4 days. Probably the most common and the one most people end up at. 3 days for for somebody an elite lifter to get into comp. Usually not. The only kind of exception to that is I've programmed for some elite lifters who have already got elite strength and size, and they kind of just are at a busy part of their life where like life just doesn't agree with a higher amount of days, and so they have to kind of come in on 3 days. But we're not getting stronger. We're okay with that fact though, because we're just kind of bringing skill up and peaking them for the competition day. We're not on 3 days. We're not driving things too hard forward, which is very, very possible. But let's go back to the how to design a training split thing, because I think that's a really valuable discussion. That's something that the coaches and lifters out there who are looking at their programs can actually take away. So rather than just kind of going, yep, I'm doing and deciding at the very start before you actually put anything down on paper that it's an upper, lower split, instead of doing that, first thing, like I said, determine the amount of days that is practical and very consistent. So that might be 4 days. That's fine. It might end up being a lower, upper thing, but you know, you don't have to strictly start with that. And then I'm going to look at the SBD structure of it. So like putting day one is going to be like heavy squat, you know, and also bench pressing. And then day two is going to be bench pressing. And then day three is going to be squatting and dead. I don't know. Like you could lay it out however you wanted, but you're going to actually put in, squats are going to be on this day, benches are going to be on this day. You don't have to actually label them anything yet, but just kind of like put it out in a way that makes sense. And then from there, then we can throw in the intent of each one. So like if you've decided that you're going to do 3 bench days and that makes sense, then you're going to go like, this is going to be my heavy, medium, and light day, or, you know, primary, secondary, and tertiary day, whatever words you want to use. But you're going to like kind of have an intent for each day, what you're trying to get out of that day in particular. And then from there, then we can start to look at the specific exercises. So usually if I have 3 bench days a week, my heavy day, guess what that's going to be? It's going to be comp bench, because like that's the most specific variation and the one that I can lift heavy with, and it just makes sense. There's no
You're not going to max out your dumbbell press.
Yeah, I'm not going to put. Yeah, I'm not going to put a close grip 4-second eccentric Larsen press for my heavy day. It just doesn't make sense. It's just not a variation that really leans itself to that a whole lot. And so my heavy days is going to be paired with the exercise that suits that. My secondary day might be like a volume day, and that might be a dumbbell press or a Larsen press or whatever I want it to be. And then for the third light day, it might be, again, if you're really far away from competition, some chest pressing of some sort on a machine, or push-ups or anything, all the way up to if it's close to comp. I like to do like for my tertiary day like my light day like a technique-y type day. So like higher amount of sets, low amount of reps, but quite low RPEs, just to allow people to still move that bar fast and go through the movement patterns and set up multiple times and really like lock in their setups and get a lot of skill work out of it.
It's a speed day.
Yeah.
In there, Louis
and then
Simmons. Get the bands out.
Technique day. And then in that, if you have previous training data, you might already have like a volume target in mind. I'm going to do this many sets over a week with roughly this intensity or whatever. But if you don't, maybe you're going to take a little bit of an educated guess at it. But at that point, I'm going to start to give volume. So I'm going to say, look, if 3 sets on the heavy day makes sense, 5 5s on the medium kind of volumey day makes sense, and then on the skill day, if you want to do it like how I just said, it might be 6 sets of 2. Or something and obviously the intensity paired to make sense with that. So if it's a skill day, low RPE for the 5x5, it might be ramping sets, or it might be a set weight, like a percentage with an RPE cap or something along those lines. And the heavy day is obviously going to be heavy. It's going to be the whole intent of that day is just actually getting some weight on the bar and practicing moving heavy weights. And then the program still looks pretty bare because it's just SBD. It's just all my squats, deadlifts, benches, and deadlifts are kind of filled out. That's not the entire program unless you are, just want to do SBD. That's not what I advise, not what we advise whatsoever. At that point, you want to fill in accessories. So then you can look at what accessories make sense, both on a recovery standpoint. So You can do it like how I said before with the squats completely separate. It's not a common way of doing it, but it definitely works. If you're doing a more typical upper lower thing, then the lower body accessories are going to be paired up with the squats and the deadlift days and things like that. It's going to make a lot of sense. But yeah, it's hard to give advice on that one. But I would just split them up so that the recovery curves aren't impacting each other. So if you don't want to do like a big leg accessory day, heavy ass leg press and leg curls, and then jump into a squat day the next day, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So it's just keeping some common sense in the accessories there.
And so, as well, that skeleton idea where you're filling out those main movements first and branching off, where the amount of days you're training comes into that, it really just pushes options. If you have 3 days to spread that work, it decreases the options available. If you have 6, you have way more fucking options. So that's another big thing that you can look through as well. If you want more options, you're probably going to need more exposures. If you're happy having less options and you just need some very basic stuff, less options can work really well. That's really where the days kind of plays into it. If you want a really intricate plan where you're stimulating things multiple times a week and you're waving those recovery curves and you're taxing different muscle lengths and doing all the fancy shit that the internet likes, more days is necessary. If you're just trying to be good old simple man, going on in, doing some legs, doing some upper body, less days can do it better for you.
Yeah, and that's where frequency comes in. Frequency is just a tool essentially to split up the amount of work that you're doing. So like I said, if you want to grow your biceps massive and you want to do 20 sets of biceps a week, probably not the best idea to just do them all back to back on one day.
So you're telling me the Rich Piana 8-hour arm workout isn't the way to maximize progression?
But even he at least had breaks on that day. Like he had you take an hour between sets or some shit.
Take a nap. Take a nap halfway through.
Still terrible idea. Don't do it. But he's, the better way would, instead of doing an 8-hour one workout, maybe do, an hour arms on each day or some shit. It still doesn't work out. He's still behind. But yeah, splitting them up so you can actually recover between and get a recurring stimulus rather than just annihilating your joints on one day is probably a better idea. But the frequency is just going to be determined by the most logical split of how you spread out the volume and also your life, like how many times you're going to be going to the gym and for how long, rather than, doing arms 5 times a week is better than 2. It's just not a supported concept. In strength, however, which we are a strength podcast, a powerlifting podcast, there is a little bit of merit to it because obviously, like if you have more frequency on your bench press, like I said before, you're going to have more fresh sets rather than doing 10 sets of bench in one session. Maybe you're doing 3 sets on Monday, 4 sets on Thursday, and then another 3 sets on Saturday or something like that is going to allow each of those sets to be of a much higher quality. You're going to definitely get way more out of each of those sets, and I don't think anybody can argue with that. It just is what it is. It's going to allow both your muscles to get stimulated and work a little bit better for you. You're not just bashing joints, and you're going to come in fresher, a little bit clearer in mind. It also allows you to technically, like you're building up and warming up to those sets every time, so there's a little bit more workload without even kind of meaning to. So there can definitely be some benefits to higher frequency on SBD. However, I just wouldn't come in and just say, I'm going to bench 6 days a week just because, make it just logical and progress slowly.
Yeah, higher frequency generally does win when it's within the realistic realm of recovery for the person.
It's just common sense a little bit. A little bit of common sense here.
When you're starting out, you're not going to do your first ever run and run 15 kilometers. That's the equivalent of doing your 6-day bench program for your first day. You generally start a bit lower and you work your way up and you say, am I recovering? If yes, add more. If no, figure something out. Figure out why you're not recovering. If you're sitting at a decent amount of work, you're doing between, I don't know, what's a decent amount of bench? 12 to 15 sets. It's not stupid. That's
pretty common.
Moderate benching. If you're sitting around there, if you go to 18, you get penis elbow. If you go to 10, your bench stops progressing, then you kind of have your effective range. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a similar approach to the the muscle building and you need X sets to grow or whatever like that, but the recovery is the thing that you're chasing, and the metrics that we would be chasing would be just how is the bar moving, how are the sets looking, how do they feel, like confidence-wise, all those kind of recovery factors that we spoke about in previous episodes. So from all the rambles and rabbit holes that we just went down a little bit wildly, I guess the big answer to this question overall is like, is how many days should you train? It should just be based on your lifestyle and your goals, mostly to some degree. Just how much work that just makes sense to spread it over a week. Don't overcommit yourself. Don't commit to 5 days when you can realistically only get 4 days most weeks. If you have higher goals and want to compete at a high level, and maybe consider training more than twice a week, but you don't have to train 7 days a week, so somewhere in the middle usually works quite nicely. 4 to 5 is the typical that most powerlifters will do, and that just makes a lot of sense. So that's, I guess, really the very simplified answer to that question.
Yeah, don't do 2, don't do 7, do 6 maybe if you don't do much else in life and you really love training. It's usually going to be 5 or 4. And then within that, you usually start on 4 just to make sure you're not going to die. And then try 5 if you want to. If 5 doesn't feel good, go back to 4.
Yeah.
Voila.
Cool. All right. There you go. That's how you determine your training days. I think that's pretty straightforward. We spoke about it mostly in regard to strength, but I think we did a good enough job of hypertrophy there as well. Like you're limiting yourself a little bit by just setting exact days to what they need to be. Instead, determine the amount of work that you need to go into each muscle group, what you're going to focus on for this block. If you're somewhat advanced, you're going to need to do like kind of biased blocks. I'm going to focus on my hamstring and pecs and whatever for this block, and put the others on the back burner if you're going to have to do that. Work out how much workload for each one based on previous training, and then assign it kind of and spread it out in a common sense way, as opposed to going like, oh, but my training program, legs, push, pull, says that I can only do pull exercises on this day. It doesn't fucking matter. Like it doesn't matter. Just spread it out in a way that makes sense. If you have biceps on your a few sets of biceps on your leg day because you need to fit in more volume somewhere, go for it. It is not going to be the end of the world. Nobody's going to say,
already training
like, oh, hey,
biceps for Morris.
No, get out of here. But the only thing that's going to change is that at the top of your program, rather than saying legs day, it's going to say legs plus biceps day. I don't know. It really doesn't matter. It's the total work and the spread of the recovery that matters.
Yeah.
Cool.
And a notable mention as well, if you're trying to figure out if 5 days is too many days for you, you can mosey on back to episode 6, where we talk about how do you know when too much is too much. It's a nice little plug.
There you go. Yeah, if you're getting
learn more
down,
things,
go learn that. Awesome. We'll leave it there. And if anybody has any questions, as always, jump on NexusPerformance.com.au, scroll up to the top of the page where it says podcast, click on that, scroll down just a little bit, and there'll be a feedback form. It's not just to tell us how good we are. You can just ask questions as well. We do love a good pump up though, so please. And then and ask your question, and we will make sure that we get back to you, whether it's to do a whole episode on it like we've done for previous, or whether we can just sneak in a little bit at the start of an episode. Hey, somebody asked this question, and just shove it in there. We'll make it work.
Or stand out the front of your house and yell the answer through your window. That's an option too.
You can.
Only if you live local. Yeah, I'll do that.
I also just want to mention as well, Zach, that we have had no shirt requests.
I know it's been a hard sell. It's been a hard sell. We've got a lot of support. Got a lot of support, but not a lot of action, which is upsetting. That's all right.
Yeah.
There's no support. I haven't heard
A
it
lot
from
of talk,
anyone.
no walk.
There's nothing. Zero. Zip. Nada.
That's
Which is just fine.
No. So yes. All right.
I
Cool.
think
We'll leave there.
I think we should
Enjoy.
close out with Mickey whistling. Whistle us a tune, Mickey, to close up.
I can't when I'm
I'll
laughing.
whistle. Now, Mickey. Good effort. It's just blowing in the microphone. All right. Cool. There you go.
Bye, guys. Thank you for listening to Nexus Unloaded. Be sure to jump on our website to find details on everything mentioned on today's podcast, plus information on our coaching, mentoring, and gym services. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at NexusPerformance.Aus for any updates on what we are currently doing. See you all in the next episode.